Morning, all. And so we've got 2 games tonight. We have none tomorrow. 0. It's an open day for me. That's going to feel different after the last 3 weeks. Just been hockey, hockey, hockey. Free time. All right. Sounds good. And on a Saturday too, right? And somebody at Hockey Night in Canada or somebody at NBC Sports Network saying, Saturday be a prime day to have a big game on. But all right. So tonight's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? So at 9:45 p.m. Eastern, 6:45 p.m. Pacific, the Vancouver Canucks try to do what many of us might have thought would have been darn near impossible. If you look back to January, February, if you had told me in late February, the Canucks could be in a position to knock out the St. Louis Blues, I would have said, no. That's if they make the playoffs, great, but knocking out the Blues, let's just hold up a little bit on that idea. And yet here we are. Now the Blues, I've looked. I haven't seen any confirmation of who's playing. I'm going to assume Bennington's going to go back in net. I'm going to assume that St. Louis is going to try to pull out all the stops to force a Game 7. And putting Bennington in net might make some sense. Although I don't think Jake Allen's been bad. Again, goaltender, coach. It's easy to throw the blame on. These are the two figures that it's the easiest to blame in any given situation. So Vancouver has a chance to knock out a team that, outside of special teams, has probably been better than them. I will say in Game 5, Vancouver was excellent, though, and really stood up to the St. Louis Blues. And Virtanen had the best game of his short playoff career. So we'll see whether or not all of those storylines can coalesce again to help Vancouver gain a victory, or if the Blues can force a Game 7, which will take place on Sunday, if that's the case. The other potential Game 7, Philadelphia and Montreal. This feels like the old days, doesn't it? So Niskanen's out, Gallagher's out, and it does. It feels like the old days. Montreal fans and Philly fans are arguing with each other. Oh, it feels like the 80s. That was fun. I remember in the 80s watching, especially 87, and thinking, wow, those two fan bases, that's some toxic exchanges. And as a Bruins fan, I just watched. It was magic. But yeah, that's where we're at again. And no Gallagher for at least the rest of this series. And for Philly, you've got to think they're going to try to end this tonight. And momentum definitely seems to mean something in these playoff rounds. We saw the play-ins. If you had a lead in the series, you probably won it. Right now, we're looking at a lot of 5-game series having happened in round 1. A lot of the teams that were in the round robin are the ones that are winning now. So it's possible that the really competitive close series start in series 2 or round 2. We'll see. But Montreal's trying to force a Game 7 to change that storyline. And again, that Game 7 would be on Sunday. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see whether or not Montreal can make that happen. Should be, again, I just enjoy this. I just enjoy watching Philly and Montreal and the fisticuffs. And, yeah, this is going to be great. And, of course, I'm really enjoying watching Nick Suzuki up against one of the best two-way forwards in the league in Sean Couturier. And, yeah, so that's fun. All right, so let me know your winners in the comment section below for those games. All right, news of the day. After being eliminated, Coach Reardon basically says the compete level wasn't good enough for Washington. He's right. The compete level for the Capitals wasn't good enough. But the double-edged sword with pointing this out is that compete level, part of that has to come from coaching. So he's not wrong about the compete level not being where it needs to be. Of course, we may have seen the last game for Braden Holtby as a Washington Capital. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And we may be seeing the Capitals having to make some changes this offseason because this wasn't working yesterday against the Islanders. And while the Islanders were excellent in that series, the Capitals also, there was some lackadaisical play yesterday from guys who make a lot of money. So Coach Reardon is right, but he's also probably going to be the one that's on the hook, and I would be very surprised if they don't make a change behind the bench. Just saying. Mike Milbury made a comment last night that somehow ended up all over the place, and honestly, it's just a remark, and I think with Milbury, we're now at that stage where no matter what he says, people are like, okay, Milbury's going to say something stupid. Listen, there it is. There it is. So, they were talking about bubble life, and he says, well, basically along the lines of paraphrasing of, well, these guys don't have any distractions or any women around to distract them. And of course, women are like, oh, he's saying we're a distraction to men. No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying men are slave to their hormones, and that it is hard for us to focus when women are around. And it is a cumbersome thing to say. I would think men should take more offense than women, but men go, yeah, it's kind of accurate. I mean, yeah, that's about right. But again, I think it's people just looking for some reason to be all upset and angry over what Milbury says, and sometimes it's accurate and it's true, and sometimes it's not as accurate. Now, as a for instance, the Tuukka Rask situation, and I'm waiting for more corroboration on this, but what's emerged on the Tuukka Rask situation is that he got a phone call from his wife and his daughter, and that there was a medical emergency involving his daughter where she had to go to the doctor, and she wanted her dad home, and so he went home to be with his wife and his kids due to a medical emergency. He's just not talking about it publicly, and when you see the way that over the years wives and families have been thrown under the bus for player behavior and certain things, Wayne Gretzky, anybody, Chris Pronger, I can understand wanting to just shield your family from that. So again, Milbury was the one that goes, I don't think Boston's going to like him. I think they're going to get rid of him. Yeah. If he went home because he's got a really sick kid that had to go to the doctor and he couldn't concentrate on hockey, and a team's going to move him, that's going to be some great PR for that, isn't it? But yeah, but this is where we're at now, is that he makes a comment on the game and immediately everybody loses their mind. That's why it's on the board, because I'm like, why is Milbury trending? That's all he said. Again, was it funny? Not really. But is it the most offensive thing he said in the last 10 hours? Probably not. He's a guy, you mic him up, follow him around 24/7. I would think you'd hear all kinds of offensive stuff from him. So yeah, it's not a big deal. The Pittsburgh Penguins added Josh Maniscalco, a defenseman, undrafted out of Arizona State University, 36 games, 11 goals, 21 assists, 32 points. And according to Jim Rutherford, he's a good puck-moving defenseman, 23 years of age, so he'll be able to push for a roster spot. Pittsburgh's pretty good when it comes to signing these guys and picking up the guys who later on, as UFAs out of university, or picking up other teams' draft picks, John Marino. They're pretty good at figuring all this out, and so we'll see whether or not Maniscalco pushes his way onto that roster, because we know part of the reason Pittsburgh didn't knock out Montreal is that blue line, right? Calgary. So I'm wearing a Flames jersey. I really thought coming out of that round against Winnipeg that Calgary had momentum, they had confidence, they were playing with a lot of swagger, and then Dallas just said, yeah, no. And you could see during that series that Pavelski and Perry in particular, two guys who didn't necessarily fit in that great with Dallas during the regular season. I mean, Pavelski did with the leadership part, but the offense wasn't really there. And then the playoff games roll around and both guys turn into what they were 10 years ago. It's been crazy. But yeah, Calgary's admitting after last night they didn't push back hard enough either to avoid being eliminated. So, does Jeff Ward go? Maybe. Elliot Friedman thinks there's going to be major changes in Calgary in the offseason. I'll say that's a maybe as well. Something's definitely not right there. And I will say it is probably time to look at the core. And it's not that long ago I was saying, they're not going to trade Johnny Hockey. I look at the way they made their exit and I think, holy crap, they may very well trade Johnny Hockey. This may be the best time. If the team's not enamored with Johnny Gaudreau, it's maybe the best time to try to trade him and see what's going on out there. Because again, I mean, I guess maybe they'd go with Lindholm, maybe with Monahan. I think of the three, I think Monahan was the best of the three against Dallas. But that game last night, that's embarrassing, and in an elimination game too. That's just. I've talked about teams playing like they want the coach fired. I don't know what that was. They were playing like they all want to get fired. I don't know. You get a 3-0 lead and then go, oh, well, we're good. We're done. I don't understand. I don't get it. We'll see what the Flames do in the offseason. We do know a round 2 matchup that we will see. It is going to be Colorado and Dallas. So I'm excited about that because, and I'm already seeing the posts. Oh, Dallas is going to get killed. Maybe, yeah, sure. But I think, with the Dallas Stars, I think they showed in the last round. Unless we're going to see just how bad Calgary is, which is possible. Arizona getting absolutely destroyed by Colorado makes you wonder just how bad was Nashville. So if Dallas does get killed by Colorado, the question is going to be asked of how bad was Calgary? And we'll see. So for Dallas and Colorado, there's only 1 day's difference in terms of rest. Colorado finished their series 1 day before Dallas, and they're both teams out of the round robin. They've met in the playoffs a couple of times, and I'll discuss that when I do the preview for round 2 between the Avalanche and the Stars. I'm excited. If Colorado knocks out Dallas and kills them, then that's what happens. But I think it's fun that Dallas is in the second round. And again, I know they were there last year, and they could have beaten St. Louis, but they didn't. And it's nice to know that there's going to be games being played by a team that I cheer for into September. Yeah, that's weird. That's just weird. Anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts regarding the news of the day. As I said, give me your winners for tonight's games. And let's hope for a nice, safe, I'm watching Montreal and Philly here. Safe game tonight. No more jaw-breaking. Knock it off. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support and for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.